Welcome back to the Connor Happer Show. I'm Jack Mitchell. I'm not Connor. I believe 2 weeks from today, you'll get Connor back.
That is correct.
Two
yes.
weeks
Looking
from
at my
today.
schedule. Many podcasts that he hosts already have him back, which is interesting.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Of those 10 days, I will be with you 40% of them.
Hey.
4 of the next 10 I've got.
Great hit rate.
Couple this week, couple next week. So hopefully you've enjoyed it. I've spread them out though for endurance sake, right? Since I'm the 7 hours of radio in a row, I can't do that every single day. I'm not some sort of endurance runner for radio. Let's get to Sam McKewon. He joins us right now. Excited to. I don't get the chance to talk to Sam all that much, so I'm excited to get him on here. I'd read him a lot, but don't talk to him. Good morning. Good morning. I'm still having old radio habits. I can't do this. It's 1 PM. I'm not usually on the radio now. Good afternoon, Sam. How you doing today?
Good, man. How are you doing, Jack?
Good. I'm good. Got all your limbs cleaned up?
Yeah, we did. We got it done. Like, I think we were more fortunate than a lot of people. I have colleagues who are still without power in Omaha. And so, Lincoln got hit hard, but, I feel like power was restored in a lot of places. So, yeah, we got them cleaned up. It's okay.
And no one will want for free wood chips this year, which is very good if they do it. Yeah,
that's right.
What did you think of the event as a whole on Saturday night? Was it what you expected? Did you like it as an event?
I thought it was good. Yeah, I thought they gave the fans who showed up a little extra in terms of hearing from the coaches and hearing from a parent. I thought that was kind of cool. McGahee's mom and dad kind of talked, which I thought was neat. And so it was kind of a promotional event, but it was also a little bit of, a picture of what a practice looks like. It was a legitimate practice. It wasn't a joke practice. They did stuff. They looked like they were, in the middle of it. About the only thing people didn't get was a fight. So, I think they did a nice job though. And, people who went certainly saw different things from the Nebraska offense than maybe they would have seen last year. I mean, it's a different looking group and a better looking group, to be honest with you.
Yeah, and obviously the first thing I wasn't there, but that same night I talked to people who were there, and of course the first thing I asked them, like probably happens with you and everyone you talk to as well, is how did Dylan Raiola look? So I'll ask you the question: how did Dylan Raiola look?
I thought he looked pretty good. He kept the ball out of harm's way at times, which I thought was really important. He goes through his reads thoughtfully. He's pretty quiet in the pocket, so his feet are not all over the place and not a lot of exaggerated movements. I thought he did a nice job though of getting the ball out. I think there's just, and I've said this to a couple different people, he's just going to have to continue to work on every single throw and every single rep just being urgent and consistent from a mechanic standpoint. And I don't even really mean the throwing motion. I think you can do a lot of things with arm slots, and he knows what he can do with his arm slots. And so, Mahomes does a lot of that stuff too, but the footwork's gotta be what it's gotta be. And they do a lot of drill work to, for what you would call off platform throws, which is where you're running around, but also what you're doing when you're anchored, down in the pocket. And he's got all the components and the tools. It's just a question of, hey, put your foot toward the target, deliver, put that thing in the spot. There's all kinds of lingo that's used these days. Drop in the bucket, throw a dot. There's all kinds of things that he understands that they'll get better with him on. And some of those things you can't really learn until you start playing football games at the collegiate level.
Are you curious at all? Maybe you feel like but are you curious at all what his sort of in-game demeanor is going to be like as a quarterback? You see a variety of different personalities kind of come out at quarterback, and I feel like I know a little about his, but not a lot. And it's not that I've watched a ton of high school game film. Maybe that would give me some answers. But are you curious about that at all?
Absolutely, I am. Yeah, and I'm curious to see what happens when things don't go right.
Mm-hmm.
Right, like how it looks when you're down 14 at Ohio State, or you're tied with Iowa, or you're tied with Wisconsin. How you handle those moments. Now, over the years, we've seen a lot of different kind of quarterback reactions. I mean, Taylor Martinez had virtually no reaction when he would come off the field. Tommy Armstrong was full of fire. So and I think that actually helped his team win games, is they would respond and react to that. Adrian was pretty quiet. Like, he would come off and, whatever. So, we'll see with Dylan, what he's like and how he enjoys success. He celebrates in a way that I think is fun-loving, and he's not just a trot off the field guy or a, hey, nice job, hit you on the helmet. He wants to go down there and have fun. So I do think his teammates will respond to that, but absolutely, I'm curious to see how he manages tough stuff in the middle of games against defenses that are better than any he's ever faced.
Sam McKewon joining us here on the Connor Happer Show. Jack Mitchell in for Connor Happer. I heard Matt Rule before the game talking to you guys about the defensive backfield and suggesting that you might have some guys who we think of now, I think, as safeties or nickelbacks, maybe playing corner. And maybe this is a bit of a trend around the country, but when he talks about positionless football, I kind of thought about the offense first, but it sounds like that's kind of we shouldn't make any assumptions about who is or who might not be available to actually play cornerback, because it sounds like it could be almost anybody in that defensive backfield.
It could. I think it's hard to find really good corners, and when you do, you basically leave them out on the field for the whole game. So Quentin Newsom, I think, led the defense in snaps on the defense. I think Bryce Benhart led it on the offense, because you don't usually pull your tackles out unless you have to. So a lot of times you want to have two corners, like two really good ones. Maybe you'll play three, and your third one is the guy that you bring down in the slot or whatever. They have one in Tommy, and they felt like Bly Hill was going to be their second guy. Bly's got a lot of talent. And so when he got banged up, they go out and they get Sayer Wright. People say his first name differently, but we'll go with Sayer.
Okay.
They went out and got Sayer Wright, and now they're going to look at Hartzog, although they seem to want Hartzog at safety.
Yeah.
Marquise Buford's going to rotate down and play corner. So they got some young guys that they want to give a chance. Mario Buford's probably going to be a corner. Mari Sanders might be a corner. But some of this is brand new because John Butler is there. And John Butler, in terms of what he understands about that position, is a 400 level understanding. He coached a long time in the NFL, so he understands things that, other people don't. And so he's going to have to make an assessment of what they have there and make some decisions about, okay, here's what I want. Here's who I want. He knows what a really good corner does and what a really good corner is. And, he'll make his own assessments. I think Marquise Buford can play corner because he's really smart and he can play any position on that defense in terms of the defensive backfield. So they may be putting him there for that reason. Kind of a DiCaprio Boodle kind of thing. Buford's probably the smartest guy on the defense. They're very close to it, him and Gifford, and Boodle was the same. And so they may put Buford there because they know he can do it. He's undersized, which means you can be a liability deep. And Bly Hill would not be a liability deep. You're not going to throw it over Bly because he's 6'3". Where taller corners of liabilities are in short area. And Buford will be good there. So I don't know what they're going to do. We'll have to find out as the season goes on.
It's just interesting because you got Buford with a lot of starts at safety. You got Hartzog with a lot of starts at corner over the year. Yeah. And they almost are flip-flopping. I guess Hartzog technically a nickelback, but in a bit of a safety position. It's a lot of – I'm not saying it's the wrong decision to do that, but it really shows you, boy, you played a couple of years with these guys in places where they may not end up actually at the end of their careers with Nebraska.
No question. And maybe we'll ask Butler about some of this stuff tomorrow again. He could probably talk for 3 hours and give you a dissertation on body types and who goes where. And what I'll say about Hartzog, and I really like him at corner too, is again, he's undersized. And so the very first game he started against Rutgers, they hit 2 over.
Yeah. 2
deep ones. And I think he got a PI too. Now, later in that game, he made some plays, but if you put Jamal Banks against Malcolm Hartzog and you just throw that ball in the right spot, it's gonna be hard for Malcolm to win. So you have to dedicate some safety coverage over the top and all kinds of stuff. Like there's all kinds of things that you can do. I've always been, and again, I'm not a coach or a former player, I've always liked a smaller corner because I don't really think most college quarterbacks are, can hit all those deep balls. And so, you'll live with a smaller guy like a Baron Miles because he's physical, from 0 to 10 yards, and I think that's important. But they've gone away from that. You see more and more teams going to the 6'2", 6'3" corner and saying you're not throwing over the guy, so you're going to have to nickel and dime him short, and and those things. And so that's probably what Nebraska's going to do. And Butler will have more insight than I would ever have. So he'll enlighten people. He knows a ton. I don't know how much he's going to say tomorrow. He probably wants to come in and be modest. But again, I mean, Evan Cooper was a really good coach. Sean Butler is on a whole different level. When you've spent 10 years in the NFL and you face Patrick Mahomes and you've watched Josh Allen in practice, and you've Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson, he knows everything there is to know about that stuff. And I'll be curious how much he imparts to us tomorrow.
Were we surprised to see Turner Corcoran working with the first team instead of Prohaska, or surprised to see him still at tackle, I guess, even at that point? Speaking of positionless football?
I did. I was. Yep. I was surprised. That doesn't mean that I don't think Turner's a good lineman. I think Turner's going to play in the NFL and has the most potential of all the linemen on the team. I think that was true. And Greg Austin, when he was the coach here, told everybody that. Incidentally, Greg Austin was also a huge fan of Henry Lutovsky, who's banged up right now. But he was like, yeah, Turner's, he's going to be an NFL player. And I think everybody agrees. Whether he's going to do that at tackle or interior guard, I don't know. I suspect that his elevation at left tackle has more to do with Micah Mazuka and Justin Evans at guard, and Henry at guard.
Okay.
These are some butt kickers. I mean, and Justin Evans is a little short, but again, you're seeing the short linemen in the NFL become kind of vogue again. Like it's okay if you're 6'1" or 6'2", but you can move. Because some of the defensive linemen that you're facing, I bring up Aaron Donald, he's the best of all time, but other guys too are short as well. And so what they've found is, these little 6 foot, 287 pound nose tackles like Donald are just getting into the pads of these giant linemen. So you got to come out there with a guy who's kind of like a wrestler too. And so Evans, I think, is good, and Mazuka's, if you ask the other players on the team about Mazuka, they're like, yeah, that guy's really good. So it could have something to do with that. Corcoran's a good lineman. He and Prohaska will probably go back and forth. Wouldn't surprise me if they both play quite a bit. I mean, I was surprised, though. I thought it'd be Teddy, for sure.
Yeah. Is there any reason to believe, or have you seen anything or heard anything that indicates that one of these running backs is going to kind of pull out ahead of the other ones and be as close, I guess, as you could have to anything like a bell cow? Or do you feel like, hey, you're probably going to see 2, maybe 3 of them almost the same amount through the course of the season?
The latter.
Yeah.
I think that's probably the direction it's going. And I don't think that's a knock on anybody in that room. I think they want to try to spread the wealth. I will say that if Gabe Irvin's healthy, he can become your hammer in the fourth quarter in a way that maybe Emmett Johnson and Ramir Johnson wouldn't be. So one thing that'd be interesting to see is, Emmett sort of starts the game. Ramir comes in, as a curveball, and then you bring in your closer, and your closer's Gabe Irvin, and, he's knocking people over. Emmett's bulked up a little bit, so maybe he can fill that role. And he had some nice fourth quarter runs last season, but, I think it's probably going to be a committee approach, and I don't know. They're probably middle of the pack in the league. Not the top. I mean, Ohio State's number 1, but they're middle of the pack. They're not bad. Mm-hmm. And I think that's where you live with. I'll say this. I think the receivers are higher than middle of the pack. Based on what I'm seeing or what I saw, what I've heard, they could be top 7, top 6. And that would be a huge, huge thing for Nebraska, because last year they were probably 13th or 14th with all the injuries, but this year they could be, way up there. And I mean, Carter Nelson did not catch the ball. He needs to catch the ball, but he was open a lot, and it wasn't because they lost. It's because he beat guys. Like, he's quick. He's quicker than I think I realized, and so he got open 4 or 5 times. Where it's like, guys are trying to cover him, and he's got a step and a half within 15 yards. That's a player. Now he's got to grab it, but he'll grab it, and so he's a weapon. He's a threat.
Who's the biggest catalyst for you saying you've seen that big of a jump from last year to this year in that receiving core? Which is it? Is it Banks? Is it Nior? Is it something else?
Both of those guys. I thought Malachi looked good on Saturday. He's gained weight, so he's up to 215. I think he's probably still. We can ask him this, but I think he's maybe still working into his stride at 215 versus 185 or 190. But he really looks good. So I think that's going to be a factor. I think Jalen Lloyd being a year older, and then Garcia Castaneda coming back. He's a good player.
Yeah.
And so
forget that
he'll
one.
help them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like he won't have like 60 catches, but he might have 15 to 20. And Banks might have 45 to 50. It's just a way better unit than it was really at any time last year, but definitely after Garcia Castaneda got hurt. Because once he got hurt, yeah, Marcus Washington was playing, but they were basically running 5 guys, and then Washington got hurt, and they were running 4. Yep. So this year they could run 8 or 9, and I think they're going to be much better at that position than they were last year.
All right, last one for you before I let you go. It's great information, so I'm really enjoying picking your brain on all of this. Sam McKewon joining us on the Connor Happer Show. Special teams. It seems like the concerns in the different areas of special teams are all a little bit different. At kicker, you've got maybe a player that was inconsistent, but he's injured right now, right? And it's who else is on the roster. Bushini's healthy, but it seems like he's regressed a little bit since he came in originally. If you're being completely honest and true with the whole thing, and then in the return game, they didn't have the people last year. They were looking to see who ran kicks back in high school, and they had to be so conservative. It was just about mistake avoidance. And so I guess in all 3 of those areas, you've got a little bit of a concern, but it combines to one larger concern about special teams. How do you break down each one of those issues with special teams going into the season?
Kicker's up in the air with Alvano banged up, and the other 2 guys in camp, they, in practice, they made some kicks, but that's kind of like a golfer. You just don't really know until you put them out on the course and put them, you put a wedge in their hand and you tell them to put the ball within a certain spot. And Alvano's going to have to do that coming back from a groin injury, and the other 2 guys are going to have to do it on a stage they've never done it before. The key to being good at kicking is recruiting a really good kicker. So I think they have that in Alvano, but he has to show that. The punting piece, I think that, one, you got a new long snapper, and so that's going to take some adjustment. And 2, I think if you just told Brian Bushini, hey, man, we just want you to kick it as far as you can, and if you kick it straight, so be it. But that's not what punting is anymore.
No.
Punting is now, it's 43 yards and 4 feet from the left sideline. That's how that all works now. And so, just getting better there. I think you could have told Caleb Lightbourne the same thing, and said, hey, just kick the ball 70 yards straight. We'll go down and cover it. And if they get 15 yards on the return, we'll live with it. I think he probably could have done that. I think where he struggled was with the directional piece. And I think that's part of what's going on with Bushini. At returner, I think Ja'Cory Barney is going to be and Ramir are going to be high level kick returners. At punt returner, I don't know, could be Garcia Castaneda. It could be Barney. It could be Zaire Wright. It could be a bunch of different guys, but the Big Ten has so many good punters that, really what you're trying to do is make sure you're fielding the ball. And then if you get lucky enough to make a run, then, you make a run. But I think Nebraska will be good in punt returns in terms of maybe blocking a punt or 2. I think that's where they'll try to make hay with their punt returns.
All right. Well, they got hopefully they're not looking for people halfway through the season this year like they were last year. And like I said, it turned into mistake avoidance. And I don't think you can underestimate how impactful. This is such a cliche, but man, it's a game or 2 every year, right? With the special teams, for sure. For sure. All right. Hey, Sam, great to talk to you. I love the insight. I appreciate it. Enjoy talking to you. And hopefully I'll be back here next Monday. So hopefully we can do it again then. All right.
Let's do it then. Take care.
There you go. Sam McKewon, Omaha World Herald.